Where are my Billy Clan members at? Watching 40 Days of Fashion, tuning in from day to day, wondering what Billy doing next. Fashion money, stacks and stacks. Go get y'all, go y'all back. It's the 12th day, the 12th day, the 12th day. Today I'm going to teach y'all how to color pair, but before we get started, make sure y'all like, comment, share, and subscribe. I did that. Moment of silence. Let's start. So today I'm going to be using my color wheels to demonstrate color relationships. They're very important when it comes to fashion, when it comes to selecting fabrics and making outfits on the more stylist side of fashion. The basic color groups that we know already are primary and secondary colors. Primary colors are colors such as red, blue, and yellow, and they cannot be made by mixing other colors. However, secondary colors like green, purple, and orange are made from primary colors, so they can be mixed with two of the primary colors to create that. Here is my color wheel, and I'm going to explain the terms on here. First of all, like I just said, primary colors are red, yellow, and blue. They're the basic colors, and they can't be made from mixing other ones. Secondary colors, orange, purple, and green, or orange, violet, and green, and they are made by mixing two other primary colors. Tertiary colors. They are 6 tertiary colors, which can be made by mixing one primary color with an adjacent secondary color. The intermediate ones like yellow green, blue violet, red orange, yellow orange. Warmer colors are more of our orange, red, and yellows. Our cooler colors are more of the green, blue, and purples. 3 ways to describe a color are the hue, value, and intensity. Hue is the color itself. So if we're talking about red, that will be the hue. The value is how light or how dark it is. And this could be, as you may have heard of, the value scale, where it goes from really dark to really light. And gray, the grays are more in the middle. So it's like black, gray, white with. And intensity is how bright a color appears to the eye. If we use white, for example, white is very bright. Yellow is also very bright. If we use a variation of one of the primary or secondary colors, like red, for example, a shade of red is pink. So if we have a hot pink, that is a bright color. For the ones with lower intensity, there's your blacks, your burnt oranges. And tint refers to a color plus white, and this can make a lighter hue of that same shade. If we were to add white to orange, it will result in a lighter orange color. The amount of white that you add to a hue will determine its intensity. Tone refers to when you add gray to any color. So same thing with that orange. When we have orange and we add gray, it kind of mutes out that orange and makes it more dull appearing. So it will have a lower intensity than it would if we were to add white to it. Shade is the hue plus black. So this will add more dullness as well and also reduce its original intensity. So with orange, we add black. It makes it look really dramatic. So let's talk about complementary colors. Complementary colors are colors that are directly across from each other on the color wheel. So for example, we have green and red. They are directly across from one another on the color wheel. Orange and blue, also directly across from each other on the color wheel. And those help us because when we use those color combinations, they create a bolder look. Have you ever seen, even in logos, a lot of logos use the purple and gold or the purple and yellow. They use the orange and blue combinations because they're really bold. They stand out. And split complementary colors are when 3 of the same colors are complements of one another. But it's the 2 variations of one color and the one across from the original. So green and red, they're complements, but the colors on either side of red will be the complements of green. Same thing with if it was flipped around. And we have red, and then the colors on either side of green will be the ones that complement red. Orange, green, and violet are examples of a triad color relationship, and these just mean that the colors are evenly spread out on the color wheel. And this will also help you when you're trying to figure out what 3 colors go best. Like say for instance you have these 3 colors like I gave you, for example, green, orange, and violet. The triad relationship will help you if you have 3 pieces of an outfit that need to go together and you don't know exactly how it'll look. So referring to the color wheel and referring to the distance of the colors on the color wheel, you will be able to understand how well they will go together and get that visual in your head so you can choose the correct outfit to wear. And this not only applies to colors and like outfits and everything, it also could be used in visual merchandising. When you have a store layout and you're trying to figure out which colors will evoke excitement in people and customers and advertisement, you need to make sure you choose the correct colors that do that. And that's also understanding how each color individually has a relationship to the customer and what it means in general. When we see green, of course, we associate that with nature and wealth, money. When we see violet, we associate that with wealth and royalty and sophistication. When we see black, we see it as a very bold color, and in some cases it can refer to death, which is also another thing you need to pay attention to. When you choose certain colors, you need to make sure, depending on the culture in which you live and where you're going, you need to make sure that the colors are not offensive to their cultures. For example, white in a Chinese culture signifies death. We need to make sure that when we're wearing colors, they stand out, they mean something, and they're not offensive or they're not creating a negative connotation. The tetrad color relationship refers to two sets of complements that are in this, they form kind of a rectangle on a color wheel. So you'll have, for instance, red and green and yellow and purple. And they all form that rectangle. If you were to turn it the other way, you will have orange and yellow orange and blue and blue violet. Now that we've gotten the color relationships out the way, we're going to go into how those coincide with fashion. So in fashion, color means a lot. Color has lots of significance to fashion, and when it comes to apparel and accessories and shoes, and choosing the correct one can be very hard sometimes. So what we need to know is that, first off, neutrals go with virtually every color. If you have a purple and you have browns or nudes and beiges and tans, those will pair perfectly with that purple. If you have achromatic colors, colors that are not really considered colors, they just reflect or absorb light. They don't really reflect a hue. So for those colors such as white, gray, and black, they also pair perfectly with any hue. So say for instance we have black and yellow, very bold. We have gray and yellow. It's bold, but it's still muted a little bit because of the gray. If we have white and yellow, that gives the outfit a great balance. But like I said, understanding color relationships and the basics of color relationships helps us to know what to pair with what. When we have purple and green, we know that it will create a bold look. If we have a color and a triad relationship, we know those three colors go together well because they are complements on the color wheel. Buying a color wheel or keeping one handy, it will be really helpful for you when shopping online and in stores for different accessories and garments. Now, of course, there are many different colors that are not on the color wheel. They're more intermediate, and I know that it can be pretty tricky. Keep in mind that browns come from orange. When you have a brown color and you add several amounts of white to it, it ultimately becomes one of those neutral colors. By using that information, you can keep in mind that variations of blues will pair well with those browns since they have orange undertones. When we pair grays with certain hues, they will completely wash them out and dull them down. But that's not always a bad thing. If you want to go for a more casual look and don't really want too much attention drawn to you, that's when you can pair your blue shirt with your gray trousers. The same goes for accessories. So if you have a blue necklace and you have a gray dress, it will pair perfectly. It'll pair pretty well. If you have a brown outfit, an all brown outfit, you can wear blue accessories. If you have red and green outfit, a red shirt, red long sleeve shirt with some green trousers, those will be great as well. With there being so many colors that exist and so many variations of colors, there's so many color combinations that exist. They really cannot go wrong. Even though we have these color relationships and how to coordinate them, it's still important to know how to play with colors. You don't always have to go with the ones that's complemented. We can go to the analogous colors. So we could use blue and a blue violet combination. You just have to keep playing with colors. So with that being said, I hope y'all learned something today and y'all come back for day 13. Make sure y'all like, comment, share, and subscribe, and I will see y'all and talk to y'all later.